Okay, in today's episode I want to show you how I would process a Nightscape image. And I know that some of you are interested in doing this kind of photography, and it does require kind of a unique approach to processing to help to make those stars really stand out. Now we're going to start with a great looking image that I captured last night with the Tamron 15-30 VC. It's a new lens that was just released, and it's one of my new favorites for shooting the night sky. Wide open here, you can see there's a lot of great sharpness here, and the star points are rendered very sharp and nice. So let's jump in here, and one of the first things we're going to do is we're going to grab the quick selection tool, and so we're going to start to create a mask here that will allow us to work on the sky without affecting this foreground, because we need to treat those in two different patterns here. And so I'm just going to work at quickly helping to refine that edge a little bit. And then we'll go into the actual refine edge dialogue here shortly after that. Now, when I approach these images, I want to. This was done as one single exposure. I did some light painting there on the structure itself, and there's some other light source. You can hear ambient light that is spilled into the image, and so I need to deal with these two parts of the image separately. And so I'm going to right-click and select Refine Edge. Now it opens a dialog here that allows me to use this tool here, which I've enlarged just a little bit, to paint around, particularly in the area of these trees, because there's not a hard edge there, and so I need that mask to be not just feathered, but also to have a little more detail, and so these trees are not included in the exposure above. So you see what a great job this tool, and this is one of the most handy tools that has been introduced in recent years in Photoshop. Now in this dialog box there is a number of options. I've only really selected one here, Smart Radius, which just kind of helps with that process of selecting, and so I have that at about 3.3 pixels. You can play around with that. In this Adjust Edge, I've got nothing selected here, and then down here on my output, all I'm selecting is an output to a selection. I don't need a separate layer or mask because of what I'm going to do. I'm just creating this selection here, and then once that new selection has been created, you'll see that we have a nice, more feathered, nuanced mask here. I'm going to grab the curves dialog here, and so right now we're just working on the night sky. So a couple of things here at the lower part of the tone curve. I like to drag that down some. We're trying to increase the contrast between the bright points of the stars and the darkness of the sky. And then somewhere around the middle, we're going to start to drag up and create an S-curve. Now, you can kind of play with that, and you might want to add another point to further increase those star points. But just quickly, as we toggle this on and off, you can see there's been a pretty vast difference in the amount of contrast here, and it's maybe a bit too much. I'm going to pull it back just a hair in the middle, and maybe the bottom back up just a little bit. And so you can see here, though, now that I've got that, I'm more happy with it. You can see we've introduced a lot of contrast into the sky that's going to help those star points to really stand out. Now, the nice thing about having created this selection is that now we can reselect, and I'm going to select the inverse. Now I can work on a separate curves layer. I'm going to open Curves dialog again, and I can just begin to play around and see if I can get a little more, just kind of a better environment here in my foreground. And so I'm just playing with the curves a little bit, and this is really a matter of taste, but I like where there's a little bit more contrast in the dark areas here, and then just a little more nuance in the textures of the structure itself. If you want to get creative here, you can also mess with the individual channels and see if you get a color look that's better. But what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to go into my favorite plugin for toning, but first I'm going to hit Shift Control Alt E together. There we go, and so I have created over the top here a new layer that now contains the work that I've done in the curves, but I can work on that layer separately. And so I'm going to go into Alien Skin Exposure, and this is my favorite plugin for toning. And so what I've selected here is a plugin or a preset that's a kind of a custom preset that I've made, and it's based off of the old Technicolor process, and so this is a 3-strip process, and I just like what it has done, particularly to my the structure itself. It adds kind of a rusty overlook to it and some red tones that I think really kind of suit the structures, and then also it's given a little more blue into the night sky, which I think is a cool effect, and so you'll see it's increased the overall contrast of the image, and it's a look I like. And so I'm going to apply that to this layer. And once that's rendered, now there's a number of other things I could do. I could go in and I could work in this area here. I've got kind of a bit of stray light that's created something that's standing out in here. And so if you want to go into more detail, you can do those things. But we're just going to keep it simple here and just do one other thing. And that is I'm going to go to Select, and I'm going to select Focus Area. This is a tool that has been included in some recent versions of Photoshop that I find really, really helpful, and particularly even more so in images where you have a shallow depth of field and you don't want to sharpen everything. You just want to sharpen the area that's in focus. And so in this case, I want a little bit more global sharpening, but I'm going to accept this, and I'll show you one further stage here in just a moment. So right now, we are only sharpening on our selected area. I'm going to use Smart Sharpen. That's my new sharpening tool of choice, and I like to take a look. This is really where the most sharpness is being applied, and so I've got a value to where it's adding some punch to it without giving it kind of halos and over-sharpened look. So here are the numbers: 153%, 1 pixel dimension, and reduce noise by 19%. And so I'm going to select OK, and that will render. But one thing is, while this is rendering, is that you noted that it only selected portions of this, and I would like a little of that sharpness to also be applied to the stars in the sky. Not all of it, because I don't want to increase too much noise in the sky, but what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go over to this mask itself, and I'll double click on it. Now, if you look at this mask, down here we see a tool called Density. Right now it's at 100%, which means that it is completely masking out everything except for what has been selected. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to back that off a little bit, say to around 60%, which means, as you see, the mask is not now completely masking that out, but some of that sharpness is now extending on into our night sky. Not as much as on the structure, but enough to make that stand out, but without introducing too much noise into the sky. And so, other than some kind of fine tuning, let's throw all of this into a group here, just so we can toggle it on and off. So there's where we started, and you see kind of there's lacking some contrast and nuance in the structure itself, and then of course in the sky. But now in our finished image, we have got a much more contrasty, richly colored image where those stars are allowed to stand out much more and dominate as they should. And so there is just these are some of my very, very common steps and stages when I'm going to fine-tune a Nightscape image. I would probably go into this before personal publication and deal with a few of those troubled areas that I'm less thrilled about. But as you can see, in just a few minutes, we have made a vast difference to the overall look of this image. My name is Dustin Abbott. I hope you have found this tutorial helpful. And if you don't already have alien skin exposure, if you'll use the coupon code Dustin Abbott, my name is one word, all lowercase, it'll give you 10% off anything in their store. Hope this helps. Have a great day. Bye-bye.